everyone, it's April with Hair 101 and we are going to do a fun haircut on this cute girl today. She wants an asymmetric bob, but it's pretty drastic. She wants one side like down to here at the end of her neck and the other one right about here. And we're going to do some round layers through the back and the sides and a really long bang. It'll kind of just have like a shape, just like kind of down right here. It'll hit right there and then come back down into the long piece. So it's going to be really fun. So I'm going to spray the Oil Wonders by Matrix. It's a cutting oil throughout her hair. So that oil, it just helps with the hair, keeping it combed out really nice, and it helps to keep your scissors a little bit sharper, and it just makes the hair feel good too. So I like using it. And it smells like Christmas. Yes, it does. The oil, and you're supposed to shake it. I guess I didn't shake it very well, but it smells like Christmas. It really does. Okay, so you part on this side?
Most of the hair is on this side.
So you want this side to be the short side, this side's the long side. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to part the hair on the side that she's going to be parting it on. Because she's going to have her bangs are already probably the right length right there. In fact, let's see. So yeah, we're going to have the longer pieces down in here. Since her bangs are already cut and shorter than this, I'm going to leave them out. But if her bangs were down to here longer, like if she didn't have any bangs, I would section that triangle off and clip it up and keep it on its own. And I would do that because you'd want to make sure that that's not the hair that you were counting on to be the longest piece, because if you did the whole base of the haircut and left that piece the longest and then went back in and shortened that for the fringe, then you would be shortening up the whole haircut. So you want to make sure that if you have hair from the front that needs to be cut, you part it off, and you would just do that by cutting like a little triangle, or not cutting, but sectioning off a little triangle like this and putting that in a clip. So maybe I'll just do it to show you how you would do it if she didn't have bangs already. So we would do that, and then the next thing we're going to do is bring this part over to the middle of her head back here, because in the back we're going to go straight down the middle. Okay, so on this side I'm going to take it from the back section of the head. Anything that would kind of fall forward, I'm just going to go from the back of the head to about the ear and then section this off and clip it up. So we're going to leave this section down. And then on this side over here, so this is kind of a diagonal part, you can see here. It goes like this. On this one over here, we're going to take it and just do a straight part. All right, so we're going to start cutting in the back. Just to keep this out of the way, I'm going to put a clip in it. And then we're going to work on this section over here. This is the short side, and it's parted off straight, and that's where we're going to start cutting. All right, so I'm going to take this section, and I'm going to do about 1 inch at a time. And I'm going to pull that down. And we're going to be cutting this just straight across down here. And we're going to do it just a little bit longer than her hair actually grows. And I'm going to clip this up and out of the way. There we go. And it's just at natural fall, so I'm not directing it anywhere. And I'm pushing it right against her neck to keep it smooth and keep the tension on there. And it's gone. You can go back in and kind of clean it up. And we're going to take down another inch of hair. Less if the hair is really, really thick. More if it's thin, you can take down as much. As long as you can see your guide through it, you're okay. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to follow that guide down. Just cut it right at her neck. All right, so we have this bottom section done. So now we're gonna move over to this other section, and we're gonna be working in diagonal sections on this side. So we're gonna take the hair and start a diagonal section like this. And this we are going to over direct this way, and we're going to cut it right here to match up with that line. Take down another inch. Okay, look down again. There we go. And we're going to keep doing that through that whole section, just pulling it down. And you can see that it's just building the length down in this corner now. So we're going to keep doing that. All right, look straight for a second. So we're just going to check and make sure that this side's hitting where we want it. We want it to start right at her neck, so that's just right. And it can go a lot longer. It's fun to have it dramatic, so I'm going to leave it like that. And just clean up any like little extra hair. So now we can kind of decide over here if this is going to be in the right spot, and it looks like it will be too. It's possible that we might take it up a little bit higher right in here just to make that line, okay, look when you look down, to make it a little bit more. So we might cut off a little bit more of this end over here, but I'm gonna wait and see how it plays out in the front to see how much length we wanna take off. So now I'm gonna work on this front long side, and I'm gonna do this side first because then it's easier to do the long side first, so that you can make sure that you do the short side short enough, if that makes sense. If you do the short side first and then the long side gets cut a little bit too short, then you have to go back over and cut the short side again. So I like to start on the long side. That's just me. And right in here, I'm just gonna kind of let her hair fall at the natural place it would and just see what it's doing here. Okay, look straight. Make sure you don't have them looking down when you're checking for the length here, because it will make it longer in the front if they look down. And so I'm thinking we have this short piece right here that we want to continue this line down. So maybe the longest piece we'll have right about there. Does that look okay, Megan? Mm-hmm. Or is that too long? It'll be pretty.
Good. Yeah.
So we can even go in here, and we can even just kind of like chip out a little bit so that we know that that's the long piece right in there. And now I have a guide there and a guide here, and I'm gonna start taking sections down this way. So now we can see a little bit, I have a little bit of this guide hanging down so that I can see the length here and the length here. We need to connect those two. So I'm gonna start from the longer point and just kind of cut up. I'm gonna point cut because she wants it layery and fun anyway. And I'm just gonna try to connect these two lines. And that will be a little bit of a guide for underneath once we get it in. You can even just eyeball it and let the hair kind of hang, and then take the shears at the right angle and just come in here and chop it up. And that gets you a nice line. And the ear kind of pops out a little bit, so it's nice to let it kind of lay softly instead of tugging on it really tight right here, so that you can actually see where that hair is going to lay. And then when it's dry, you can fix it a little bit more if it is laying a little bit funny. But yeah, so I'm going to keep taking sections like this. I'm going to be doing straight across. You can actually do, it's actually a little easier sometimes to do diagonal ones just because you're working in a diagonal. And it helps me to remember how I'm cutting sometimes to take the same parting shape as the line that I'm cutting. So you don't have to, but I think it makes it a little bit easier. So here's the next section of hair. If you can see the guide back here, this hair actually falls over the back guide, so we're going to cut it to the back guide. And then on the sides, we're going to do the same thing we just did. Look straight right there. And point cut in. And then check it. You can go in with the shears and angle it up a little bit more if you want. So I'm not going to pull the hair back anymore, because you'll notice when I pull the hair back right here, some of that longer disconnect would be getting cut off in the original guide. So what I'm going to do is just let the hair lay at its natural and then follow the line from the guide I had before. And that way it will keep building. You won't like have a big chunk taken out right here. It will keep building the length towards the front. So it's a little bit of a disconnect from that original guideline. And it's fun sometimes to even leave like a little bit longer tail in here that you can kind of cut off later. I like to play with stuff like that. It's easy to cut it off if you don't like it in the end, but it might be fun to kind of have this like little long tail piece in the front. She can call it her tail, and it can be her friend. Maybe she'll even name it, who knows. So we built a little bit more length in there. And if you're having a hard time seeing your guide, you can lift up the comb and get a better idea of where it is. And if that happens, it usually just means that your section's a little bit too thick. So you could also go ahead and take out part of the section, but lifting it was faster in this case, so that's what I did. Okay, so for this last section, I am going to kind of direct it back over here now. And I can see I have this shorter section here and this longer section. It's not the same guide, but I'm just going to pull it back and kind of point cut into it, and it will give it a really pretty line towards the front. There we go. So now she has a little bit more of a line there. It was starting to look a little bit too blunt in the front of it, so. Okay, so there's the one side. All right, so I have just the perimeter in. We're gonna do some more layering and stuff back here with some round layers. But on the other side, we're gonna go in and cut this side. We're gonna continue doing the same straight partings. right, now that we're at the side, we're gonna start doing sections this way, horizontal. Look straight. And this is gonna be more of just like a bob on this side, so straight line. And then for the fringe, and we're gonna do some layering in this part too. It's gonna be really cute. Now, the bang is already pretty short, so I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit. And I'm just gonna take that triangle and pull it to the opposite side over here. I think I grabbed a little bit more than I normally would. So I'm going to pull it this way quite a bit, and then I'm going to just do point cutting into it, deep point cuts. And then when it comes back around this way, it will blend in to this part of her face. And then to have it blend down a little bit more into this, I'll probably texture this a little bit with the razor. Let me grab it. So I'm just gonna go in and razor some of the ends so that they lay together really nice and don't look like a big, harsh chunk over there. And these will go into her eyes if she doesn't keep them swept over, but that's kind of the look we wanna have, so it's okay. That's what we're going for. All right, so now we're gonna do some layering. We're gonna start in the back. So she has the perimeter shape to her hair that we want. We just need to give it some really fun layers. So we're gonna do some round layers. So I'm gonna start with about a 1-inch section, going vertical in the back, right in the middle of her head. All right, so when we elevate this out of her head, you'll see where it starts to get shorter. That's where we're gonna start to cut. Right there. And you can kind of decide. I usually start right where the row of the head starts to tuck in a little bit, so right here. And then you take half of the section that you just cut and add a 1/2 inch more of hair, and you should be able to follow your guide. And with round cutting, you move your hands and you keep following the roll of the head. So now that we're up here, we're gonna be up. And I'm trying to keep it perpendicular to her head. And then that way, when it comes down, it blends really nice and it gives it a really round shape. So now I'm going to take half of the section I just cut and add a little bit more hair to it. And also on this longer side, I did the first 2 sections in the middle. Now I'm going to start over directing it a little bit towards the middle so that I don't cut too much into her front. Because we want to leave the length over there, but we still want some layers. They'll blend in. So we're going to bring this side over to the mohawk. And we're only going to go on the back side of the head. We're not going to go all the way around the front doing these layers. So I'm only doing this very, very back section of the hair like that on this longer side. So I'm going to go through and check it really quick. And you can see that the layers kind of fall, they go forward, it looks good. But now that we're into the side of her head over here, we need to start doing a little bit different layers, because if we kept doing those, we would have the circle cut out of this area right here because of her ear, and that's how hair grows. So now we're going to start directing it all the way up here. And so now you can see that the length is still going to be preserved, because this is actually her length from down on the side. We need to make sure that we're over directing it enough to where we're not cutting off that length. So we're just doing the layers. So, and now we have the guide over here. So we're just going to point cut these chunks of hair out so that she has some really nice blended layers on the side of her head. And we're going to do that on this whole side of it. So make sure you're really, really pulling the hair over. You'll see it start to fall out here. That's good. And then you'll have a guide, and you'll want to just, I mean, once you get it really tight with your fingers, you can move your fingers around, whatever, but that's what we're going to do. We're just going to add some layers in there for her. So we're really being careful not to mess up this length that we established on the back. And so now we're taking another big section over here. Well, we're going to do the same thing. We're just layering it all the way up. And if you even need to angle it this way, you can. We don't want to mess with these shorter pieces that are falling out. We want to just cut this to blend it in. So. And we're taking it all the way to the back of her head, layering it up. And you can see the guide underneath here. So that's what we're doing. It's kind of hard to see, I bet, but sometimes it's easier for me to flip the hair around. It's just got to keep your eye on the line that you're cutting so you don't mess it up. And a lot of this is going to need to be done with the razor and to get some of that texture in there. And you can see this long, long piece right here. See, I don't want to cut any of that. I'm going to leave that in there because that's all this really long piece in her hair, and it's a disconnect. So obviously it's not going to come and blend into a guide. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to razor it to give it more texture because it's kind of heavy and laying there, but we want to keep that length there because we don't want to lose all that. So now that we're done with that side, okay, so yeah, anything that was behind the ear, you can direct back here, all the way to the middle back, straight up and down section that you had. Just make sure you don't have the other side in there when you're grabbing it, dragging it back to the middle. And then you can see it kind of has all these fun layers that direct forward. And that's what we want to try to keep. And this, you can tell right in here, this is really heavy. This is going to need to be razored out, and we'll do some layering technique on it too, but I want to make sure that we don't cut that length off, so we're going to be careful with it. Okay, so now to this other side. This is a little bit easier because it's the short side. So on this side, we're going to start back in the middle again, and this one is going to have a traveling guide, and we're going to be doing the round layers all the way around. So, but you're going to be looking for your guide on this side now. So you need to make sure you can see it through the guide you already have. So once again, you're only going to be doing the round layers with the traveling guide to the back of the ear, because we want to be able to keep a little bit more of that length than the front. And the ear always gets in the way. It changes everything once you round that corner and you have to deal with the ear. Because now all this hair underneath here, if we cut it to that guide, it would be like shorter. So we have to remember that. And I'm going to start bringing all of these layers up. So right here, we're going to make sure that we're blending these two sections in by finding the shortest piece of the guide. And I'm going to point cut again. I like point cutting on the sides for some reason. It just helps me to blend it in and not take too much off of those sides. And we're going to keep doing that along this side over here. So we're kind of pulling it straight up again, and we're using this guide from the back over here. And then the side that is like, if you pulled this down, that's where it's hitting. That is a guide, and then the back is the guide, so that's where you're cutting it straight up. And this side's going to be so fun because it's going to have lots of cute, fun layers. Pull it straight up until you can see your two guides, and then you can point cut that section out. So I'm going to razor some now. I'm going to start over here in this big heavy piece because it's where it's bugging me the most right now. I want this to be really cute. So I'm going to take this section down. I'm going to start right underneath here and clip it up. And to razor this out, I'm going to just kind of be really careful not to cut off all of the length. But wherever I see like a really thick part, I'm just going to kind of take out chunks of it. And I'm working kind of below the ear with this, because I still want her to have some thickness in here. I don't want it to look super thin. I just want the ends to have a lot of movement in them. I don't want anything to be really heavy down in the ends. You can already see that starting to take a little bit more shape, huh? I love the razor for shortcuts. I think it makes or breaks a haircut really when it's short. And then this is going to be the really heavy piece, I can already tell. So now that we have this like prettiness down here that we like, we can take a little bit more off of this top layer one. Mirror. Yeah, that's looking a lot softer. You can see how it doesn't have that harsh, heavy feeling anymore. Okay, so now I'm going to take this and pull it straight out from her head and then just do a few chunks out with the razor. And I'm going to do that all the way around the back of her head. And this will just soften the lines a little bit and give her some fun texture. And then also in the perimeter down here, I'm going to pull this straight and then just razor a little bit out. This is just a lot by feel and touching it and looking at it and seeing where you want to change it a little bit. If it's looking a little bit heavy or thick, I usually just take the razor in there and shape it. Shave it how I want it to be shaped. Same with back hair. I mean, she's had long hair for a few years now, so there's not any texture in it. So I'm going to be making sure that I put some texture underneath here in her layers so that she can have some volume if she wants, and just so that it has more movement. Because if her hair just lays really flat to her head, she probably won't be able to do much with it. If she has layering in there and texture, she'll be able to do it big or like flat, or like even curl it sometimes, and it should all kind of blend in and it just is easier. So I think this helps a lot for the haircuts. It's looking cute. All right, so I'm wanting to go in here and make this a little bit more dramatic because I want to. So I'm gonna go in here and I'm actually gonna razor it because I want it to look a little bit softer. I don't like how it's really square and then goes down. So I'm gonna pull this up. And I need to get a little bit more wet because it's dry. And when you're using the razor, try to not let the hair dry out because it kind of hurts if you do. So I'm going to go in here and just kind of soften this up with the razor. There we go. I think that looks a lot better to have that soft line instead of that corner. And I kind of told you guys we might take off that corner earlier, but once I get in there with the touch-up stuff, I make the final decision so that I can see what the hair's doing when it's drier. All right, so just keep going in and razoring out some sections underneath these layers. I'm taking vertical sections and then just doing like 3 or 4 swipes with the razor underneath them. So this will be fun too. We can look in the front now. I like to use my mirrors and kind of see what's going on with this underneath, just to soften it up a little bit. Is that okay? And then we'll do a little bit more razoring up in here because if you're gonna have a dramatic haircut on one side, might as well have some fun layers that you can spike out, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And I think the picture was like that anyway. It had some up here. All right, let's dry this up and see what we have here. All right, you guys, we're done with the cut and we're gonna do her color now. I didn't really style it, I just did a quick blow dry. And so now we're gonna place the color foils in really special spots so that they look the best with the haircut. That's why I cut her hair first, because I knew it was gonna be really dramatic and that we could place the foils a lot easier if we knew where to put them with the hair, how the cut was. So that's the cut, and I hope you guys are excited because you're gonna have to wait a whole week for the color video. It's gonna be so hard, I'm so sorry. Well, I don't know if it'll be hard, maybe you don't care. But next Tuesday, the color will be released, so make sure you subscribe, otherwise you might miss out on the color we're gonna do. And I'll put a link to that one as soon as it's up on this one, so it'll be easier to link to it in the future. And also make sure you guys check out our April's Life channel because we are doing daily vlogs now. You can see what I do almost every single day. I don't know why that would be fun to find out, but we have a lot of fun. There's 10 kids living with us right now and we never have a dull moment. So check that out. There's a link below. And make sure you guys give me a thumbs up because this is a really cute girl. Isn't she cute, you guys? And she's so brave to chop off all of her hair. So that's it for today, and I hope you guys liked it. We'll see you next time. Bye.